The Y'all Show on location on Music Row. We are back, and we're delighted that you've tuned in to the All Southern Show. Jon Rawl here, and Precious Harris is standing by. She's going to be back with us to tell us more of the scoop of what's going on here in Nashville, Tennessee. But we've got a very special guest, an up-and-coming singer that's taken time out of her music career and her dairy career to join us here on the Y'all Show. We've got Stephanie Nash, and I'm not kidding. She is, I don't know if you've ever been called this, a dairy queen. She's come here today with her boots on, and she told me before the interview she went and took care of all the cows, and this is no joke. So, Stephanie, welcome to the show, and fill us in on what in the world I'm talking about here.
Thanks for having me. So I guess the dairy side, more of it, is my life. It's been my life since I was born. You know, my dad was a dairy farmer. My grandpa was a dairy farmer. My mom's dad was a dairy farmer.
Wow, it's in the family blood.
So it's in the blood. Yeah, my brother came back 2 years ago from college. He's now working in the crops, and I do more of, management on the dairy farm with the animals.
And, of course, she is aspiring to be a huge singer, and we certainly hope are pulling for her there. But if things don't work out, I guess you can go back and be a dairy farmer. But that is actually the reason, Stephanie, you might detect, like, God, that's not really an authentic Southern voice. Where's she from? She's from California originally, but guess what? She came to Tennessee as a youngster, not to try to make it on Music Row, which we hope that does happen, but the whole family relocated to Tennessee, Middle Tennessee to be specific, because of cows.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're actually in the process of making our own creamery as well.
So really?
That'd be up and coming probably the end of the year. We're in the process of getting that building up in the next 2 months. And so we'll be selling local, hamburger from our farm. Cheese in the future. We're going to start off with our own milk and ice cream for now.
Are you hiring?
Yeah.
Sounds like a great gig. Now, if you don't mind, can you tell us where this is? Is this a public place that people can order from?
Yeah, so it's going to be at our dairy farm, which is in Chapel Hill, Tennessee. So
Okay.
it'll be out on the road, and we'll have more of an educational base. I think Tennessee as a state is missing that. People are straying away from the agriculture communities, kind of not knowing where their food comes from. And that's one of the biggest reasons why we wanted to start this up, is to bring people on dairy farms and advocate for agriculture again.
Okay. Yeah. And again, the family farm is called?
Nash Family Farms.
Nash Family Farms.
Yeah.
All right. So I was going to ask you one of my questions. This is a beautiful, talented, up-and-coming singer that's last name is Nash. Surely that had to be a stage name.
I know. Everybody was like, oh, your dad's Steve Nash. Well, actually, his name is actually Steve Nash.
Okay.
So it's kind of funny on top of the whole last name thing. But yeah, I guess I was just blessed to do country music and kind of get me moving forward to have a good stage name as well.
There's even a whole series of radio stations that have the moniker of Nash FM. So you're set to go, Nash FM, if you're listening. So you, of course, came along with the family to Middle Tennessee, to Chapel Hill, which, by the way, prior to your moving there, was known for two things. It's the home of Nathan Bedford Forrest, the Confederate general. Did you know that?
Yes.
And actually, I've been out to the birth site there, which was closed at the time that I went there. And it's also home to, around late July, early August every year. Go ahead, fill us in.
The tractor pool.
Oh, yeah, the tractor pool in Chapel Hill, Tennessee. Have you been?
Yeah, I've been. Actually, I was supposed to go this year. It was last weekend, and it got rained out. So I was like, man, I hadn't been since we moved here, but it's a great time. They have little tractor pools all around all summer, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I happened to be coming through there a couple of years ago, the day before, and you could see the trucks heading to Chapel Hill, and that's a great thing here in the South, is not only do we have great singers and dairy farms, we got tractor pools from time to time. We're talking with Stephanie Nash here in our Music Row Spotlight, and she works closely with Precious Harris, and we're going to have Precious on with us in just a few. If you want to stay tuned, we'll get all the scoop of what's going on in Nashville. I know you're a singer, but you like to know what else is going on with other artists too, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. I write with tons of artists around town, mainly artists that still believe in the real country music sound of things. So I'm really blessed to have some of those friends and be able to write music.
Well, she grew up in Fresno, California, which is not all that far from Bakersfield. And as a diehard Southerner that I am, and a diehard country music fan that I'm sure most of you listening or watching us here are, there's one exception to the South of where great country music has been produced, and that's Bakersfield, the Bakersfield sound. And I'll just call Fresno a suburb of Bakersfield. And hopefully you're going to tell me some of those influences like Buck Owens or Dwight Yoakam or one of my favorites, the Desert Rose Band, had an influence on your career.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, when I grew up in Fresno, it was more of growing up through country music. I mean, some of the biggest country songwriters always say they love to come to Fresno because of the rural communities, agriculture community. It's family, everybody's family there. And I know I've had a huge influence on those. I go home and I get to talk to some of those songwriters that are still performing in Bakersfield and those areas. And definitely a big influence having that country background over there.
So who are your favorites in country music? Past and present.
Ooh, okay. Well, I mean, you got to go with Dolly Parton. She's queen, and she's just a beautiful soul, too. Brooks and Dunn has always been one of my favorites. LeAnn Rimes still, I think, has the best country music voice ever. I know she doesn't sing as much, but, man, when she hits those notes, it's a different kind of experience, I think, for me. I just love her music. I grew up mostly on George Strait, Garth Brooks. That was, I'm only 25. So before that, I could say Dwight Yoakam and, again, Dolly Parton, Shania Twain. Some of those, all the 90s, 2000s inspired artists really get me going.
But you were too young growing up when they were actually putting these songs out new on the radio. So there must have been a local radio station in the Fresno area that gave these 90s artists a lot of spins when you were a child?
Oh, yeah, of course. Actually, my friend Nick Cash is the guy that runs 102.7 over there in California. So he's always been a big fan of me trying to pursue my music. And, of course, I listened to that with my grandpa in the back seat, all those songs growing up.
All right. You go back any further than the 90s, any of the 60s, 70s people an influence for you? Patsy Cline, for example? Yeah,
Patsy Cline's a good one. I would say I'm more of the bluesy era. So, like I said, LeAnn Rimes is a big one. Some of my faster songs definitely influenced by her and keeping that rock, like I said, Brooks and Dunn, very rocky.
All right. Well, yeah. Brooks and Dunn, we have no objection to Brooks and Dunn. Now, tell me a little bit about what led you to get off the dairy farm and come up to Nashville from Chapel Hill to give country music maybe a chance.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I grew up in a church in Selma, California, and I led worship there for years. Choir, went to a school that was specifically known for their music program. So I've always been singing, but I went to college, finished that, came home, and I knew there was in animal science.
Yes.
From UT. I started off at Fresno State, though, first.
UT as in?
UT Knoxville.
Okay.
Yeah, the Bulls.
You being from California, there's another UT between here and out there. There's one in Austin, Texas. Yes. But you're talking about UTK.
Yeah.
Not to offend those in Martin or Chattanooga. So you got a degree from Big Orange Country at the Hill.
Yep.
How about that? Animal
science.
Animal science, which is, what does that mean these days?
I mean, what I tell people, because I did go to Fresno State for 3 years, I pretty much have a major in the dairy science program, but UTK didn't offer that. So I went on to an animal science. It's more of, getting to know your reproduction, your genetics, all of that specifically for animal production.
All right. So because of your family's connection to dairy farming, I didn't know if you specialized in bovines compared to pigs, for example.
Yeah, so I was in a program called Dairy Challenge, which is evaluation of dairies. It kind of deals with everything from cow comfort to cooling to finance. So my bringing back of knowledge from college would be evaluation of the dairy farm. I kind of specify in the health of the dairy cow, though.
Well, University of Tennessee is the land-grant college for the state of Tennessee. And I've been around Knoxville, and hopefully, Stephanie, you can tell me where in the world do cows graze there for people like you to learn, or do you have to go to other parts of the state?
Well, I will say Tennessee, is one of the states that has been hit hard by the economy and by, the United States not accepting agriculture as much as they used to. But UTK actually does have their own dairy facility.
There in Knoxville?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what part of town?
It's about 30 minutes south.
Okay.
So we would have to drive to the facility, but it's very nice.
Okay.
Yeah, very nice facility.
Because I know they have agricultural centers. I've seen them, I think, way out in Bolivar, Tennessee is something there, some kind of agricultural thing. They've got them scattered throughout the state. And again, Knoxville's a big city.
Oh, yeah.
So I was wondering where they had all these cows hidden away.
Yeah, there's research facilities everywhere throughout the state.
All right. So you got your degree. So way to go on that. And you come back and you work, and then you realize, you know what? I think I might want to try this music thing. And you're working on it. You have been coming around Nashville for a couple of years now. And I know you've got some exciting things going on. We're talking with Stephanie Nash. She's an up-and-coming singer. You want to check her out. Her website, stephanienashmusic.com. And I went there, and guess what? The most welcoming sign you could have when you go to stephanienashmusic.com, it's the first two words you see, hey, y'all. And it sounds so much better if you say it, Stephanie.
Hey, y'all.
So you got the website, and tell our listeners, and we're actually videoing this. If you're catching us right now on one of our great affiliates across the South, go to our Y'all Show YouTube page, and you'll be able to see this interview with Stephanie and perhaps learn a whole lot more about this very talented Southerner. So your website, your music, I noticed, I think Spotify?
Yes, Spotify, iTunes are primarily the two that I would say to go to. Yeah,
and I'm not a member of Spotify, so therefore I didn't listen, and I'll confess. But I've been told you're very good. So brag on yourself, if you will, about your music, that people can go to Spotify, iTunes, and the other accounts and learn more about Stephanie Nash music.
Yeah, so I will say I have 2 songs out. One is a duet with Kyle Elliott, a very talented musician here in Nashville. That just hit 100,000 streams.
Only 100,000, no big deal.
Yeah, so that was pretty awesome. And then my song I put out in March, Ain't Gonna Be Your Man, that was a really good song. I produced it with Kent Wells, and it just didn't do as good as I thought it would. I didn't know if I didn't have the right people behind it, or but I still believe in my music. I still believe in my song, and I'm gonna put out another song here in fall. It'll be my second single.
Is it ready to go?
It's almost ready to go.
Oh, no, yes. I was going to play it. We're going to play Ain't Gonna Be Your Man then, heading into our break, if that's okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay. Well, go ahead and preview this upcoming one.
Yeah, so it's called Time Changes. A little bit about the backstory is farmers in California, they're struggling right now. I'm from there. I know everything about it. My dad was on all the boards, and I read this article about some of my friends that I went to high school with, people that I grew up with down the street, and the bullet train is coming in from California, and so a lot of...
Is it really? Because
that's what they're saying.
If you're not from California, they have essentially set aside billions of dollars, I think, for this speed train that I don't think is ever actually going to work if they even started really working hard to do it. So there, we caught you up. So back to your story.
No, you're good. Currently, the people in Kerman keep telling me it's only like 1.5 miles long right now. So I don't know. But anyway, the government took all this land from farmers, and I know one of my friends are due a lot of money, and so that broke my heart, because I know as dairy farmers and farmers in general all around the United States, people are really struggling. So to have that money taken away from them really was disheartening. And so I wrote a song 2 hours later called Time Changes, and it's about my life having to move from California here, which is a great experience. I love Tennessee. My family has made the right decision, but there's people struggling across the United States in agriculture. Specifically, the newest one was Nebraska with all the flooding, and seeing those pictures is just so heartbreaking. And so this song is kind of an encouragement to rural communities and farmers all across the United States. It's kind of telling our story.
Now, here on the Y'all Show, we love our farmers, and Stephanie Nash, a farmer. You could call yourself a farmer. You're not just a child of farmers. You are a farmer.
Yeah.
And I'm a retired farmer, as I grew up on a farm, a vegetable farm. So, look, there's a lot of us, but oftentimes farmers are so darn busy that they don't get out here on the other side of the camera or microphone and promote what you just said about the hardships. When you're a farmer, essentially everybody's against you, from the Lord to the people that are buying your product, because the Lord, God bless him, he doesn't need me to bless him. But honestly, it's totally in God's hands, at least Mother Nature.
Yeah,
and I'm
of course.
sure, I know vegetable farming is very dependent on, is it too hot? Is it too cold? Have we got enough rain? All these factors. And dairy farming, really a lot of those same factors, if not all of them.
Yeah, of course. Like in my song, it says the bridge is, we pray for rain and he always shows us. I mean, and then it goes right back into the chorus. It's a very deep song that I hope a lot of people will get behind.
And then the flip side of what I was saying is the consumer doesn't want to pay a lot of money for things that they got to have. And guess what, Stephanie? We got to eat, whether it's dairy products or something grown out in a field, vegetable-wise. Stephanie Nash, our guest here on Y'all Show. So you have this upcoming single. What's the plan for its delivery for the baby that you're about to birth?
So the plan is, I'm getting a proposal back from a PR company in Nashville that has been really gracious to wait for me until the time was ready. They work with some bigger artists I'm not going to name, just for confidential reasons.
It's not me, in case you're wondering.
But they have been trying to pull me in since November, and
Awesome.
finally they're just great people, and I know they'll get behind my music. And of course, Precious is behind me. The other thing that I would really like to do with this song is kind of give back to FFA programs. So I'm working on scholarships with the Beef Association, Dairy Association, Tennessee, in general, all across the United States. I have a Farm Bureau back in California trying to get me pictures and videos that I can use for my music video, which will be coming with the song as well. Again, hitting at the hearts of people that don't know agriculture families and people that portray us to be the enemy, which we're really not. And we're very humble people. 99% of dairy farms are family owned. So people don't realize that, when you say something that you're not knowledgeable about, please ask a dairy farmer. Please thank us, because we work 365 days a year.
And at the Nash Dairy Farm, as she already hinted, they do two things with their cows. Some of them get slaughtered, but some of the products become milk, ice cream, and it's almost August. I got to know, or it is August in this case, what is your favorite ice cream that's produced there at your farm?
Oh, man. Well, we don't produce there yet. We're working on it. But,
okay.
I know my brother's got some, recipes in the mix, but in general, cookie dough is my favorite ice cream.
Man. And I've had cookie dough, but I can't wait to go to Chapel Hill, Tennessee, and maybe could I come there and broadcast the first batch that comes out?
Oh, yeah. My brother would love that.
Because I like Chapel Hill. That's kind of in between a lot of places that I actually sadly have lived in, whether it's Lincoln County or Williamson County. You're kind of right there in the middle. As you educated me, Chapel Hill is not just in Marshall County, Tennessee. It also stretches over into what? Rutherford County?
Bedford
County,
yes.
Which is Shelbyville is the county seat of that county. You ever been to Shelbyville?
Yes, I have. I go there quite a bit to Napa and O'Reilly.
Yeah, she was actually telling me before we went on the air that she likes to go to Fayetteville, Tennessee. Most people would call it Fayetteville, because they have a really good tractor supply store there.
Oh, yeah. The Case store and the John Deere store are usually the parts we need, and they're usually an hour and 15 minutes away.
Is she not the perfect, probably person, but at least the perfect woman? I think so. And I haven't even heard you sing yet. But I know it's got to be good. And even if you're a terrible singer, which I know is not the case, what you're doing is important.
Yeah.
You're not just putting out music, you're putting out music with a purpose. You're plowing up and harvesting. I need to use more dairy terms here. Put your career in dairy terms before we go to break here. Explain what you're doing with your music.
I guess producing would be.
You're producing.
Yeah,
she's out here,
another one.
and she's going to be milking it for all that she possibly can. Stephanie Nash, thank you very much. Congratulations on your degree from the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and hopefully she'll get her PhD in great country music. And we're looking forward to playing this record right now. Ain't Gonna Be Your Man.
Yes.
What was the inspiration
A
behind
little
that?
sassy. I guess men that talk too much and don't stick around.
You ever dealt with any men like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh, that's terrible. You better go stick with cows if you don't want you to get your heart broke. That's you, Stephanie, or anybody out there. And I think the same applies to men as well. All right, well, that is all of our segment here. We're not done with Nashville and Music Row. When we come back in the second hour, Precious Harris is going to be back on with us, and we're going to have a lot of fun finding out, besides what's going on in Stephanie's career, what else is going on Music Row. In fact, today, Precious and I attended a number one party, and I'll tell you all about it In the second hour of today's Y'all Talk with a Southern Accent, we'll be right back from Nashville.